Hello, and greetings to all you fans of RPGs, and of Dungeons & Dragons. On behalf of RPGmodsFan, I will be narrating most of this video. In this walkthrough video, we will be reviewing the 5th adventure in the Candlekeep Mysteries anthology book. The book itself was published by Wizards of the Coast in January of 2021. This 5th edition D&D adventure is titled Shemshime's Bedtime Rhyme, and it was written by Aristotle Levitch. The adventure is meant for 4th level player characters. The adventure starts with the player characters in Candlekeep, staying at the Firefly Cellar. The Firefly Cellar is a windowless basement beneath the House of Rest. The House of Rest is Candlekeep's inn.
Poor Winthrop. May you rest in peace. Looks like Candlekeep's inn no longer carries your name. The Firefly Cellar is lit by lamps that each contain a swarm of fireflies. No, not that type of firefly. Yes, that type of firefly.
The Firefly Cellar is actually part of the library, and does contain a collection of ancient books. The adventure soon has the player characters meeting and interacting with the NPCs in the Firefly Cellar.
Hello, my name is Allround. I am the former keeper of tomes. Some time ago, the task of governing Candlekeep has been turned over to the Archmage Janussi. Anyway, my assistant, RPGmodsFan, will now be discussing the adventure itself, and this video will contain spoilers. Unless you are a Dungeon Master who will be running this adventure for their players, or are a player who already played through this adventure and are watching this video for nostalgia purposes, I would suggest not to watch the rest of this video.
Shemshime's Bedtime Rhyme is not a dungeon crawl. Technically, it is an event-based adventure. Hence, it may seem like a railroad adventure. I would disagree. Shemshime's Bedtime Rhyme is supposed to play out as a drama. To play out this drama, it is set in a confined set, with a cast of characters the player characters can interact with. The synopsis of the adventure would be as follows. A catchy and contagious rhyme traces back to a sinister clockwork book. Trapped in one of Candlekeep's cellars, the characters must figure out the best way to stop the spread of this odd contagion. The adventure takes place in the Firefly Cellar, a windowless basement beneath the House of Rest. The cellar is lit by lamps that are full of fireflies. The Firefly Cellar houses a neglected collection of books. After spending the night here, all the player characters wake up in the morning with the same tune in their heads, and each one hums it under their breath. They soon discover that the tune has spread to the Firefly Cellar's other occupants. Fearing a contagion, the Avowed institute a quarantine to keep it from spreading. The contagion is not sickness, plague, or virus. It is actually a curse. The adventure is built around a sequence of events that now start to unfold. Shemshime is a shadow and a malevolent spirit. It is trapped in a children's book titled Shemshime's Bedtime Rhyme. However, the humming of the tune is breaking the bonds that trap Shemshime in the book, and its supernatural influence over others is growing. The player characters need to identify the curse's source, which is the aforementioned book. Their search eventually leads them to Crinkle, the Firefly Cellar's Kenku caretaker, who has the book. The book holds the secret on how to stop Shemshime. Before discussing the timeline of events, I will be briefly describing the adventure's cast of characters. Starting with Vanir. Vanir is a female sun elf and is middle-aged for her race. She loves books, is hard-working, and has risen to the rank of senior scribe among the Avowed. She has no ambition to rise further in the ranks. She is leading the effort to restore the much-neglected books in the Firefly Cellar. She is unaware that the book, Shemshime's Bedtime Rhyme, is the cause of the madness. Crinkle is an aged Kenku with little patience. She is the custodian of the Firefly Cellar, and is the caretaker of its fireflies. She has a dour disposition towards others, except for Galeby, who softens her heart and disposition. Shemshime's Bedtime Rhyme book is in her possession, and is hidden in her quarters. Ebda Smallston is a scribe. He is a widow, has a daughter, is a pessimist, is an anxious person, and looks years older than he really is. Galeby Smallston is the 8-year-old daughter of Ebda. She is a curious, energetic child. Catula is a tabaxi druid. She arrived at Candlekeep 6 days ago, and is doing research on folk magic. She is claustrophobic, and the quarantine will unbalance her, cause her to go mad, and she will try to escape. As an aside, if they are on friendly terms by the end of the adventure, as a dungeon master, I would use Catula as a quest giver to a future adventure. The shadow and malevolent spirit, Shemshime, is the villain of the adventure. Shemshime has been trapped in the book for centuries. The humming of the rhyme is providing the means of its escape. As is in the story, Shemshime must be crushed, in order to be defeated. I will now go through the adventure's timeline of events. More than 6 centuries ago, a family living in a remote watermill endured a string of unfortunate events. A shadow and a malevolent spirit called Shemshime caused accidents and tragedy to the family. First, Shemshime compels the mother to chop off the feet and ear of her husband with a scythe. Next, Shemshime compels the family dog to bite off the mother's hand. Following that, Shemshime compels the son to drown in a river while washing clothes. The daughter was able to defeat the shadow by crushing it under the millstone that was blessed by a cleric of Chauntea. A traveling gnome named Yauen Pilt hears of the tale. He was so intrigued that he set the story down in the book called Shemshime's Bedtime Rhyme. The book is a pop-up mechanical children's book, with 4 scenes telling the tragic tale, and with a music box built into its spine. By creating this book, the gnome inadvertently created a conduit through which Shemshime could return. Yauen Pilt is also a procurer of rare books, and often does business with Candlekeep. In order to gain entry into Candlekeep, Yauen Pilt donates his book to the library. When Yauen Pilt arrived, he was utterly insane. The records of the episode are sparse, but they report that he was placed in isolation for weeks after a singing madness began to spread among Candlekeep's librarians, who are also known as the Avowed. That was over 600 years ago, and the book has been gathering dust since then. A Kenku Avowed, named Crinkle, loves to collect all kinds of curios and baubles. Shemshime's Bedtime Rhyme, with its intricate mechanical workings and charming music box, was too tempting to resist. The book was supposed to have its spine repaired. However, the Kenku decided to keep it, instead. Just before the adventurers arrived, Crinkle opened the book in her room. The music box started to play, and she became the subject of Shemshime's curse. Until the music box is repaired, it will always skip back to the beginning of the song before playing the last stanza. The last stanza gives clues on how to defeat Shemshime. Once the player characters are in the Firefly cellar, the events of the adventure then unfold. After spending their first night in the cellar, in the morning, all the player characters are humming the same tune. Sitting at their table is Ebda Smallston, an avowed scribe, who asks them to keep quiet in the library. After a few minutes, Ebda starts uncontrollably humming the same tune. Soon the hatch, that provides access in and out of the Firefly cellar, is slammed shut on Varna's orders. Varna is the senior scribe, and is in charge of the cellar. She tells the story of the singing madness that occurred 600 years ago, thus she ordered the cellar to be quarantined. The characters can explore the cellar and talk with its residents. As they do, the dungeon master should emphasize that concentration is needed to resist humming the melody. The next event to happen is Ebda's maniacal outburst. Everyone in the cellar hears Ebda's terrified screams. They soon find him paralyzed, but still humming the tune. Galeby, Ebda's 8-year-old daughter, tries to comfort him, but to no avail. Other than the humming, a few minutes later, Ebda regains his faculties. At this point, Shemshime can start to exert a variety of influences, such as random books flying out of shelves, the library gets colder, fireflies in the lamps flicker out at irregular intervals, and others. The remains of Yauen Pilt, the bookseller, who brought the book and its curse to Candlekeep, are hidden in a secret compartment in the Firefly room. Crinkle, the Kenku caretaker of the Fireflies, raises and cares for the Fireflies in this room. The third event of the adventure is for Yaoen's skull to start singing the words to the rhyme. It is at this point the dungeon master is instructed to provide the handout of Shemshime's rhyme to the players. The final stanza is absent from the handout. Catula, a visiting Tabaxi scholar, reaches the end of her patience with being confined, and she tries to break the quarantine. Unless stopped, subdued, or calmed, at any point, Catula will do the following things. First, she tries to reach the exit hatch. Next, she tries to force it open. Frustrated by her failed attempts, she then rushes to Varnir and demands for the hatch's key. Varnir refuses. Catula then attacks Varnir. The next event unfolds as follows. Except for Galeby and Crinkle, everyone, including the NPCs, must roll a DC 15 Charisma saving throw, or be charmed by Shemshime and become its puppets for the next minute. The charmed characters will then sing the rhyme repeatedly, while attacking the non-charmed characters. At the conclusion of the puppets event, Galeby emerges out of Crinkle's room with the Shemshime's bedtime rhyme book in her shaky hands. Both Galeby and the book have blood splattered all over them. The adventure leaves it up to the DM to decide whether A. Galeby was possessed by Shemshime and attacked Crinkle with the book, or B. Crinkle was possessed and Galeby defended herself with the book. In either case, Crinkle is now unconscious. If the player characters either fail to examine or to fix the book's music box, then have one of the NPCs asked to examine the book and fix the music box. Once the music box is repaired, the full version, including the last stanza of the rhyme, can be played. Once that happens, Shemshime manifests in its shadow form into the room, and a physical battle against it ensues. Shemshime cannot be reduced below 1 hit point. In order to properly defeat Shemshime, it must be crushed under 1,000 pounds, or 454 kilograms, or more, of weight. Destroying the book does not defeat Shemshime. However, Shemshime will try to take the book and defend it. Hence, the book can be used as a lure or bait to position Shemshime to where it can be crushed.
I would recommend visiting Ciel Ferma's channel. Link will be in the description section below. She has wonderful renditions of Shemshime's rhyme. I will now play her rendition of the rhyme, including its last stanza.
Scything wheat, forgotten husband sleeping near. With one swing she took his feet, with another took his ear. Does the shadow have a name? Shemshime, Shemshime. Causes grief, avoids the blame. Shemshime, Shemshime. See a dog that knows how to heal, never heeds plea nor command. Mother gave it a tasty meal, dog chose instead to eat her hand. Does the shadow have a name? Shemshime, Shemshime. Causes grief, avoids the blame. Shemshime, Shemshime. See a son doing his chore, washing clothes for the folk in town. Fell into the river's roar, sank to the bottom and drowned. Does the shadow have a name? Shemshime, Shemshime. Causes grief, avoids the blame. Shemshime, Shemshime. See a daughter grinding grain, wish the spirit's time was through. Trap set for the shadow bane, her millstone killed it true.
The Firefly Cellar has 3 floors. The upper 2 contain the book collection. The bookcases are filled with books, and are heavy enough to crush Shemshime when toppled onto it. The upper floor has a few statues in some of its alcoves. Likewise, each are heavy enough to crush Shemshime. Hanging from the center of the ceiling on the upper floor is a stone sculpture of an open book. It too is heavy enough to crush Shemshime. The only entrance is a metallic hatch that's set into the ceiling at the top of a spiral staircase. Hopefully this enlarged view of the Firefly cellar's layout will make things easier to decipher. Now, displayed on the screen are the labels for the individual rooms. Except for the last stanza, Yao and Pilt scratched the words of Shemshime's rhyme onto the west stone wall of the scriptorium. The wall is now hidden behind a moldering tapestry. Crinkle raises and cares for the fireflies in the Firefly room. Scratched onto a few of the floorboards are the words, finish the rhyme. Also hidden here are the skeletal remains of Yao and Pilt. Yaoan was killed by an Avowed, who was desperate to end the curse. The bottom floor contains a kitchen and living quarters. The player characters will be assigned to rooms F8 and F12 as their quarters. Okay, back to you, RPGmodsFan.
The adventure has a few mistakes that an editor should have caught. I have not pointed them out in this walkthrough, but I have provided my fixes to them in this video. If your players enjoy drama, they will probably like this adventure. If they are the types who are itching for combat and do not enjoy role-playing or puzzle solving, then they will probably not enjoy this adventure. Thank you for watching. Hope this video has been informative and entertaining. Please subscribe, like, share, and comment. I do like feedback. Till next time, this is RPGmodsFan saying cheers, have a good day, and goodbye.
Just to call you